this kingdom has a prominent man at its head. Okay, a prominent man at its head. You pick that up in verse 8.
Behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things.
This horn has a prominent figure that has eyes that see and guide it, so a central man that guides it, and a central figurehead that speaks for it. A prominent man at the head. Number 7, this little horn speaks blasphemies. We've already seen that. In fact, it's several times here in the chapter, but verse 25 is the clearest one.
And he shall speak great words against the Most High.
Man at the head speaks blasphemy. It's a persecuting power. Look at verses 21 and 25 of Daniel 7. 21 says,
I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them.
Look at verse 25.
And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
So this power's got to be a persecuting power. Number 9, this power will change or think to change the very law of God, the times and laws of God. You're still there in verse 25 of Daniel 7.
And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws.
This power would claim to be able to change the very laws of God. Okay? And then finally, this power would rule for 1,260 days. Notice it there in verse 25. Would change times and laws. Then the saints would be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. Okay? Follow the math here. A time is 1. Times is 2. And half a time is 1/2. So that would be 3 and a half. That's what we talked about the last time we were together. So this power would rule for 3.5 prophetic years. 1,260 prophetic days. So far so good, everyone? In fact, that time period, 1,260 days, appears 7 times in the Bible. 5 times in Revelation, 2 times in Daniel. It is the single most important, prominent time prophecy in all of Daniel and Revelation. Now this is critical. A key that helps us to unlock Bible prophecy is that in end-time Bible prophecy, in what did I say, everyone? End-time Bible prophecy, a prophetic day equals a literal year. This is a time-honored principle of interpretation. Okay? And I'll give you 2 verses there. You can write that down. Ezekiel 4:6 and Numbers 14:34. So when we're talking about this power reigning for 1,260 prophetic days, that power is really reigning for 1,260 literal years. And we'll show you that in just a moment. Okay, so the Antichrist, who exactly is this little horn? Did everyone get your marks all written down? Let's quickly review them. Number 1, it is a little kingdom. Number 2, it has to come up among the nations of divided Europe. Number 3, it has to come up after them. Has to come up what, everyone? After them. Number 4, it plucked up how many? 3, very good. It's diverse or different. It has a prominent man at its head. It's blasphemous, speaking the blasphemies, claim to forgive sins, claim to be God on earth, and persecuting the people of God in the name of God. It is a persecuting power. It would think to change the very laws and times of God, and it would rule for 1,260 prophetic days or literal years. Now, beloved, I want you to think this through. All of those identifying characteristics, who's the only power that could fit all of them? The answer is the Roman Church state. Okay? The ecclesiastical empire of Rome. The only power that fits all of the identifying characteristics. A hand-in-glove fit. The Roman Church state. Let's go through it. Does it fit? Number 1, is it a little kingdom? Absolutely. One of the smallest kingdoms in the world located there in Rome. The Vatican is one of the smallest kingdoms. Does it come up among them? Does this nation rise up among the nations of Western Europe? Does it meet that identifier? Sure does. Does it come up after them? Sure does. In fact, the power, we'll show you this in a little bit, came up at about 538 AD. I'll give you a quotation to that effect in just a moment. 538 AD, so it meets that. Plucks up 3. Now, some of this, it takes a little bit of historical knowledge to go through, and I'll just quickly run through this. There were 3 tribes, the Vandals, the Heruli, and the Ostrogoths, They were Arian tribes. That is to say, they denied the preeminence of Jesus Christ. Okay, and basically what happened is the Bishop of Rome got on the phone to a man named Justinian, the ruler of the Eastern Roman Empire, and he said, I've got these 3 tribes over here that are giving me a hard time. They deny the teachings of the church, and what happened is, the short version is very short, Justinian came over and thrashed those kingdoms because the Bishop of Rome said they don't agree with us theologically. Those kingdoms, the Heruli, the Vandals of Northern Africa, and the Ostrogoths are gone today. No modern descendants whatsoever. None. Fits the historical correspondence perfectly. Is it different from the other kingdoms? Yes. This kingdom is a religio-political system. The Roman church state is a church, but it's also a kingdom, so it's diverse. Okay, does it have a prominent man at its head that speaks for it and that guides it? Sure it does. This is taken from Dignity and Duties of the Priest. Were the Redeemer to descend into a church, were Jesus Christ to descend into a church and sit in a confessional to administer the sacrament of penance, and a priest to sit in a confessional, Jesus would say over each penitent, Ego te absolvo. That's Latin for I forgive you, I absolve you. The priest would likewise say over each of his penitents, Ego te absolvo, and notice this, the penitents of each would be equally absolved. Does that meet one of our biblical definitions of blasphemy? To claim to be able to forgive sins? Absolutely it does. Notice this one. This is from the Archbishop of Venice prior to becoming Pius X. The Bishop of Rome is not only the representative of Jesus Christ, but he is Jesus Christ himself hidden under the veil of the flesh. Does the Bishop of Rome speak? It is Jesus Christ who speaks. One of our definitions of blasphemy was claimed to be God on earth. This power says, we're God on earth. The great encyclical letters of Leo XIII, he says on page 304, we hold upon this earth the place of God Almighty. The Bible calls that blasphemy. Okay? Speech blasphemy, persecuting power. Just very quickly, W.E.H. Lecky, The History of the Rise and Influence of Rationalism in Europe, he said that the Roman Church state has shed more innocent blood than any other institution that has ever existed among mankind, will be questioned by no Protestant who has a competent knowledge of history, to the tune of 100 million people killed during a period called the Dark Ages by this power. Okay? The Dark Ages. Part of the reason it was called the Dark Ages is that the Word, which is a lamp unto your feet and a light unto your path, was illegal. You couldn't have it. Changes the very times and laws of God. You say, no, couldn't be. From Lucius Ferrara's Prompta Bibliotheca, an article entitled Papa, Volume 6, page 29. The Bishop of Rome is of so great authority and power that he can modify, explain, or interpret even what? Divine laws. Be clear on that. The Bishop of Rome can modify divine law since his power is not of man but of God, and he acts as the vicegerent or the representative of God upon the earth. We can change the law of God. And last but not least, that this power would rule for 1,260 prophetic days. And this is absolutely incredible. Listen to this from the History of the Christian Church, Volume 3. The Roman Church state's power became supreme in Christendom in when? 538 A.D. due to a letter of the Roman Emperor Justinian. That was the story I was just telling you about. After those 3 were plucked up, the Heruli, the Vandals, and the Ostrogoths, Justinian issued a decree that the Bishop of Rome was the boss. Okay, when those powers were gone, there was nobody to resist anymore. So, due to a letter of the Roman Emperor Justinian, known as Justinian's decree, which set up and acknowledged the Bishop of Rome as the head of all, what everyone? Churches. When did that take place? 538 A.D. So what happened that year? It gave the Roman Church state political power, civil power, as well as ecclesiastical power. This letter became part of Justinian's code, the fundamental law of the empire, and that year, Pope Vigilius ascended the throne under the military protection of one of Justinian's generals, Belisarius. Well, check this out. 1,260 years later, in exactly 1798, do the math. 538, you move 1,260 years, you come to 1798. You say, well, what happened in 1798? I'll tell you what happened in 1798. A man by the name of Napoleon. You ever heard of him? He was essentially sick and tired of taking orders from the papacy, and he sent one of his top generals, a man by the name of Louis Alexandre Berthier. He sent him down there into the Vatican, and he went in, he took the Bishop of Rome off of his throne, he declared Rome the Republic, all of the properties, everything, he declared it the property and Republic of France, and people said, that's the end of it. That's the end of the Roman Church state, it's done. And that happened in 1798, exactly 1,260 years after that power had risen to political and ecclesiastical prominence. So there you have it. Does it fit? Is it a little kingdom? Yes. Did it come up among them? Yes. Did it rise up after them? Yes. Did it pluck up 3? Yes. The historical correspondence is amazing. Is it different? Yes. It's a religio-political kingdom. Does it have a prominent man at its head that speaks for it and guides it? Yes. Does it speak blasphemy? Does it claim to be God on earth? Yes. Is it a persecuting power? Yes. Does it actually think it can change the very times and laws of God? Yes. Did it reign for 1,260 prophetic days or literal years? Yes.